The radical power of pro male advocacy. Why lifting Black men creates stronger communities for all. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Soft Girl Era podcast. I'm your host, and today I have the extraordinary privilege of sharing insights from my recent conversation with Laila Maryam Muhammad, a visionary whose work is quietly revolutionizing how we approach gender empowerment in professional spaces. Layla isn't just a thought leader, she's a bridge builder, creating pathways between communities that have too often been positioned as adversaries rather than allies. Her groundbreaking work challenges the very foundation of how we think about advocacy, allyship, and advancement for Black professionals. What makes Layla's perspective so powerful is her willingness to speak a truth that many have felt but few have articulated, that true liberation requires us to move beyond zero sum thinking, that we can, indeed, we must create spaces where everyone thrives, not just select groups, that lifting our brothers doesn't dim our light, but actually amplifies it in ways we've yet to fully understand. In a world that often frames gender advocacy as a battleground, Layla offers something revolutionary, a vision of mutual empowerment that recognizes the unique challenges faced by Black men in professional spaces while honoring the ongoing work of supporting Black women. Let me pause here and invite you to consider something that might feel counterintuitive at first. We've become accustomed to thinking about gender advocacy primarily through the lens of women's empowerment. And that work remains essential, urgent, unfinished. But what if what if there are contexts where Black men need intentional support and advocacy just as desperately? What if the narrative we've accepted that men inherently have advantages in professional spaces doesn't fully capture the reality for Black men navigating predominantly white institutions? This isn't about taking sides. It's about expanding our vision. It's about recognizing that different groups face different barriers, and addressing them requires nuanced, tailored approaches. During our conversation, Layla shared three insights that fundamentally shifted my understanding of what true allyship looks like in professional spaces. First, pro male advocacy isn't about diminishing anyone else's power or redirecting resources away from women's advancement. It's about creating environments where Black men feel seen, valued, and empowered to bring their full, authentic selves to work and entrepreneurship. It's about recognizing the unique challenges they face at the intersection of race and gender, challenges that often go unacknowledged in broader conversations about diversity and inclusion. Second, when organizations intentionally uplift Black male professionals through mentorship, sponsorship, and targeted leadership development, it doesn't just benefit those individual men, it transforms entire organizational cultures. It results in more innovative teams, stronger business outcomes, and workplaces where everyone feels more empowered to contribute authentically. And third, perhaps most powerfully, building cultures of mutual respect between Black men and women professionals leads to more sustainable progress for everyone. Allyship isn't just possible, it's essential for creating the kind of transformative change our communities desperately need. These insights might seem straightforward, but they challenge a narrative that has dominated much of our discourse around professional advancement and equity. They invite us to expand our understanding of what true inclusion looks like, to move beyond binary thinking that pits groups against each other and toward a more holistic vision of community empowerment. To illustrate the power of this approach, Layla shared several examples that demonstrate what happens when we intentionally create spaces for Black men to thrive professionally. Imagine walking into a boardroom where you're the only person who looks like you, where every cultural reference, every networking opportunity, every unspoken rule feels designed for someone else, where you constantly toggle between authenticity and acceptance, never quite able to achieve both simultaneously. This was the reality for a small group of Black executives who, in 1986, came together to form what would become the Executive Leadership Council. They had reached the highest levels of corporate America, but they carried the weight of isolation along with their achievements. Rather than accepting this as the inevitable cost of success, they created something revolutionary: a national organization dedicated to increasing the number of successful Black executives in C suites across Fortune 1000 companies. What makes the ELC's work so powerful is its specificity. They recognize persistent barriers facing Black male executives: limited access to networks, lack of visible role models at senior levels, and subtle but pervasive biases that affected everything from performance evaluations to promotion decisions. And they address these barriers directly, launching targeted mentoring programs for mid career Black men focused on executive readiness skills while advocating for equitable promotion practices within partner organizations. The results speak volumes. Participants reported increased confidence navigating corporate politics, and several were promoted into senior roles within just 2 years of completing the program. But the impact extends far beyond individual success stories. The ELC has grown into an influential force shaping diversity policy nationwide. Hundreds of alumni have advanced into boardrooms, and many now serve as mentors themselves, creating a powerful cycle of support and advancement. By setting new standards for corporate inclusion strategies, the ELC's work benefits entire industries, normalizing diverse executive leadership and challenging organizations to examine how they identify, develop, and promote talent. This example beautifully illustrates what Layla emphasized throughout our conversation. When we create targeted support systems for Black men in professional spaces, the impact ripples outward, transforming not just individual careers, but entire organizational cultures. But what about younger professionals? What about those working outside traditional corporate structures? This is where Layla's second example offers powerful insights. Morgan DeBaun founded Blavity Inc. with a vision of creating platforms that amplify voices often left out of mainstream media, including those of millennial Black men in tech and startups. With early leadership from co founder Aaron Samuels, a passionate advocate for young Black male entrepreneurs, Blavity recognized a critical gap. Many talented Black male creators struggle with underrepresentation in digital media spaces and lacked access to funding networks commonly available to others. Rather than offering generic networking events or one size fits all solutions, Blavity created something transformative: summits like Afro Tech that intentionally spotlighted successful founders and investors who are young African American males while providing networking opportunities tailored to their unique challenges. The outcomes have been nothing short of remarkable. Dozens of startups led by young African American men secured seed funding following Afrotech events. Community engagement metrics soared as more felt seen and heard on Blavity platforms. But perhaps most significantly, Afrotech has grown to become one of North America's largest multicultural tech conferences, with numerous alumni citing its influence on their professional trajectories. What makes this example so powerful is how it centers authenticity over assimilation. Aaron Samuels leveraged his own experiences navigating both Silicon Valley skepticism and cultural disconnects to create programming and events where young Black entrepreneurs could show up fully as themselves, where they didn't have to code switch or downplay their cultural identity to be taken seriously as innovators and leaders. By centering pro male narratives alongside broader equity goals, Blavity helped redefine what success looks like and who gets celebrated in digital entrepreneurship. This aligns perfectly with what Layla emphasized throughout our conversation. Creating spaces where Black men can authentically show up, connect, and access resources transforms entire industries by introducing new perspectives, approaches, and innovations. But what does this approach look like at scale? This is where Layla's third example offers profound insights. Following a series of high profile tragedies that highlighted societal neglect and failure regarding young Black and brown males' potential, President Obama launched My Brother's Keeper Alliance under the Obama Foundation umbrella. MBK focuses exclusively on improving life outcomes for boys and young men of color through mentorship and career pathways initiatives. What makes MBK's approach so powerful is its recognition of systemic barriers, educational inequity, lack of professional role models, limited access to networks and resources, and its commitment to addressing them through coordinated community based action. MBK mobilized public private partnerships nationwide, offering mentorship programs that paired established leaders with emerging talent while tracking measurable progress toward the employment and education milestones. The results have been transformative. Local chapters report increased high school graduation rates among participants, plus higher college enrollment and employment figures compared to their peers. By engaging hundreds of thousands nationally through grassroots and local government collaborations, MBK has reframed pro male work not just as charity, but as critical investment, unlocking untapped talent pools vital for economic and social growth. As Layla pointed out during our conversation, this exemplifies how intentional, targeted support for Black men and boys creates ripple effects that benefit entire communities. It's not a zero sum equation where supporting one group means neglecting another. Rather, it's about recognizing specific needs and addressing them directly. What ties these examples together is a fundamental truth that Layla articulated so beautifully. When we create environments where Black men feel valued, supported, and empowered, everyone benefits. Companies become more innovative, communities grow stronger, and the false dichotomy between supporting men versus supporting women dissolves. This perspective aligns perfectly with what we explore here on the Soft Girl Era podcast. As Black women learning to release the cape of constant strength and embrace our own softness, we can simultaneously advocate for spaces where our brothers, partners, sons, and colleagues feel equally empowered to bring their full humanity to their work and leadership. In fact, there's a profound synergy here. As we redefine strength for ourselves, moving away from the superwoman complex that has left so many of us exhausted, we can also help redefine strength for the men in our communities. We can create cultures where vulnerability isn't seen as weakness but as courage, where asking for help isn't failure but wisdom, where authenticity trumps performance. I want to leave you with a challenge today. a challenge to expand your vision of what advocacy looks like, a challenge to consider how you might use your influence, whether in corporate spaces, entrepreneurial communities, or your personal networks, to create more equitable opportunities for Black men while continuing to champion the advancement of Black women. This isn't just about professional development programs or diversity initiatives, though those matter deeply. It's about something more fundamental: how we see each other, how we hold space for each other's full humanity, how we recognize that liberation is not a finite resource to be divided, but an infinite possibility that grows as we share it. So I ask you, how will you show up as an ally today, not just in words or intentions, but in concrete actions that open doors so every talented brother gets his seat at every table? How might your own journey towards softness and self compassion actually empower you to be a more effective advocate for others? What would it look like to create spaces in your organization, your community, your family, where everyone feels seen, valued, and empowered to bring their full, authentic selves? Because ultimately, this is how transformation happens, not through division or competition, but through recognition of our shared humanity and our interconnected liberation, not by pitting groups against each other, but by creating cultures where everyone can thrive. The world doesn't need more battlegrounds, it needs more bridge builders like Laila Maryam Muhammad, like you, like all of us who dare to imagine a different way forward, one where lifting our brothers doesn't diminish our light, but amplifies it in ways we've yet to fully understand. The time for choosing sides is over. The time for building together has begun.